So
Good
question
morning
costs with
and
Good
afternoon.
morning.
yeah. We'll just get right into it. So over the weekend, there was a big drop from the Office of Public Accountability, right, Bree?
Yeah.
Yep. I'll let
Well,
him
actually,
explain
it
it
was
because it was a
delivered
lot.
to us at 7:15 on Friday evening, and I decided I shouldn't release it just then. And we waited until Sunday morning so that it would be on the Monday morning news as opposed to releasing it late at night.
And so here we are.
Yeah. What was it? 18 findings
Yes.
and then 16 related to 10 major federal programs. Can you kind of break
Yeah.
that down for us, please?
Well, I think about the best way to break that down would be to go to, I think it's page 20.
Okay.
Where it's like the report card of the whole audit report, where it talks, when it uses the word unmodified, it means it's clean, it's okay. And if you go down to 7, you'll notice that for 4 programs that they listed, it says they're okay, they're unmodified. But then all other major programs, they listed disqualified, there were problems. And the other thing that you have to very carefully read each one of the findings is that you have to recognize the fact that they didn't test the entire universe. They took a discrete number of the test. I mean of the actual samples, and they tested that, and you'll see that in maybe in like 16 or something. Well, they'll say we tested 60 of, it goes of 1 of 60 that we tested. The aggregate is this amount. I should find you one that says that, because the total question cost is really not the total question cost. That's just the total question cost of what the auditors actually tested. If they didn't test it, they can't say that any of the rest of it is a question cost, even if they only tested 60 samples out of 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
You get that?
Not really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what? Question cost? When I hear question
I'm
cost,
trying to pull up I'm trying to pull up the report, the entire report.
Can you just give us an idea of the question costs, public auditor, or what were these costs incurred for?
And then if you go to the ones that were related to procurement that everybody was interested in, you'll note that the auditors, they started off with all federal programs are supposed to comply with local law. And they say local law actually says that for a certain amount, you have to do this and you have to do that. And then they said they tested a small sampling of it, and they found that these things did not comply with the law, but they didn't write it up as question cost, because they also wrote that these procurements were the result of an attorney general's opinion that says that they can do these emergency procurements. So they listed as 0 question cost. Like if you go to, have you pulled up the audit?
Yeah, I pulled up, yeah, I think this is it. The single.
Yeah. Like go to page
It's like
33.
62. All right.
since I know you guys are all concerned about the procurement of masks and all
Yeah.
kinds. Okay.
Mhm.
And you'll note under, it says
There's the-
criteria
Mhm.
that you're supposed to follow government law.
Yeah, I see.
But then in condition, you'll note that it only says of 13 procurement transactions tested, aggregating a certain amount. And that's all that they tested. They didn't test all the list that you guys were looking at.
Yeah.
And they found that these things didn't comply because they didn't have certain things.
Right. So,
But the thing is that they also say no question cost is presented as procurement can be viewed as being technically based on existing GovGuam procurement regulations and guidance from the Office of Attorney General. But that's different from the criteria that they have above it. So there are special conditions that have occurred this time where the Attorney General has issued an opinion and the auditors are saying, we would have questioned that, but for the fact that the Attorney General says that it is okay.
right. Yeah.
And you'll note if you go to the next one with Department of Labor, they only tested six claimants, and you know that there were over 30,000 claimants. And they found these problems, but they said they're going to be addressing it, so they didn't find. The other one that you guys, I think, were interested in is 11, which is on page 37, where again, they just tested they tested 23 transactions, which the 23 transactions totaled 5.2 million out of a total 51 million in total non-payroll. And they only tested 23. So it's only the test sample that they can come up with a question cost. And the transaction that for like the GovGuam agencies for the hotel rooms and the credit cards was just 1 week. But they again say that they understand that this was important, that they had to do this because you couldn't, they were trying to make sure that that people didn't come to Rev and Tax and people didn't congregate up there, and to try to cut back on to ensure social distancing. So there's all kinds of things that are in this.
Right.
And there's also one
yeah.
other that we discovered is that the federal government on December the 20th of 2020 issued an OMB circular wherein they told the external auditors, when you're doing this single state audit for your jurisdiction, we know that we usually ask you to look at 13 different things, and you should test these things when you issue your single state audit. Because of the fact that over the last year, all kinds of things have happened, and the advisories have changed by the month. You do not need to test certain items, and I was shocked. Of 13 items, I think they marked 7 of them as no need to test. or no need to report. I'll send you guys that circular at some point later on today. But yeah, it's flabbergasting because they're being told don't bother, because I guess the federal government doesn't really want to know that there were problems, because they know that they were the problem of the problem. The fact that they constantly changed their advisories may have confused jurisdictions,
right.
and they don't want to find them in non-compliance and need to claw back money, because the states will all fight back and say, wait a minute, you told us we could do this in May, or you told us we could do this in October, but now you've changed your mind.
So
And
BJ,
we can't be held to the fact that you can't make up your mind.
right? Basically, you're saying that question costs don't necessarily equal wrongdoing.
No,
In the eyes of the federal government or the AG's office.
Or the
no,
OPA.
in the report, the question cost is not really what the total of what could or should be listed as question cost. One, because they only tested a discrete sample of the entire universe of whatever the transaction they were testing. And they, of those, whatever the total was that they found to be questioned, they listed as question cost. And some of them, though the auditors thought they should have been question cost, they say, well, no, we can't report it as question cost because there's an Attorney General opinion saying you can do these kind of emergency procurements. Or some of them, in one of, I think it was in 3 or one of the early findings, the question, they just actually said, it's impossible to try to figure out the extent of question cost.
So at the end of the day, what does this report really even mean?
It's just really, I agree with your frustration. It just points out that there are things that need to be done for better practice, and they are pointing it out to the government and to the people that are running the programs that we as your external auditors believe that you should be doing it this way, but we understand that you're not complying because of your Attorney General opinion or our advisories or whatever.
So basically, in a perfect world where the regular rules applied, this would have been a very, very bad audit. But since we're in a pandemic,
this would be.
Then there was a lot of changing horses in midstream, and the AG basically allowed for a certain type of procurement that was pretty rampant during the duration of this pandemic, that everything's okay.
They opined that the emergency procurement rules could apply.
Yeah.
And the report, it also points out the fact that the Guam Financial Management Information System is dilapidated, if not completely, unworkable, and which resulted in delayed reporting. I know, like the state of Oregon did its audit, and they released it in the month of April, early in the month of April. And that's what I'm trying to do here on Guam, is I'm trying to push all of the agencies to be ready to push these things out by the end of March, early April. They really should be. But because the financial management system was broken or not maintained, that we had to they had to literally do accounting acrobatics to try to open and close the year.
So, public auditor, does this basically green light these types of question costs for the new round of American Rescue Plan funding we're going to get?
I don't know. They just issued, well, I'm not sure if the 30 days have lapsed yet. I know that they sent the rules for the ARP to the Federal Register, and there was supposed to be a comment period for about 30 days. And I can't remember if that has lapsed. And so once that is finalized, we'll be able to see what the rules are for the ARP. We'll go from there. I'm hoping that they've learned from the CARES fiasco that they should issue some rules and stick to them as opposed to changing them every couple of weeks.
Last question, public auditor, because we're running out of time here. But I just wanted to ask, when you talk about the guidelines and the public comment period coming out in July, I think the governor was saying mid to late July. In your opinion, does that mean mid? In your opinion, does that mean that we can't spend any of this ARP funding until then?
I don't know. And it sounds like, and to her credit, that she's trying to be cautious and make sure that until she sees the final rule, she's going to hold on to any expenditure to make sure that when she does start expending money, that she does it appropriately. So I think that should be seen to her credit, that she's being cautious this time. I wouldn't fault her for that. I would commend her actually for it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure there's some like basic things that, we're allowed to spend ARP funds on that are clearly allowed.
I would hope, but I know that from the emails that I've been getting from Department of Treasury that the rules have been sent to the Federal Register, and we're just waiting for the 30 days to finally lapse until we get until they're finalized.
Okay,
so,
got it. I think I'm more confused than before you came on, but so question cost, but it's cool because this is a wild
Because
west,
he said it
unprecedented.
will go.
It's
the only
unprecedented.
thing that I'm pointing out to you is that you have to stop, and you actually have to read every single one of them to understand what's happening and why the numbers are the way that they are, because each one is different. This is not something that you can speed read. It takes a whole weekend sometimes to read these things, but it's you have to want to read it and have to go into it, and then you have to just understand that when the auditors go in to test a program, they only just test a discrete number of them of samples, because you don't do the whole thing. Neither do we when we do our performance audit. We don't check every transaction. It's, we'll take certain ones.
Yeah.
We'll have a random dates or something that'll do it.
Yeah.
And in this report that if people are trying to find some
Smoking gun.
Cliff Notes thing to look at, it would be the report that's on page 20 and 21, and then you can go down from there to look what's happening. Where we're on page 20, it lists which ones are the ones that are okay, so you can skip those programs, and then the unmodified, when it says it's unmodified, that those are fine. And when it says it was qualified, then you need to know what that program was. And when it says all others besides the 4 that are above, then you see how many programs are qualified. So it all depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking for
we're looking for some juice, is what we're looking for.
Well, yeah, but you have to you'll have to go into each one of these separately because each one is different.
Different. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thank you, Public Auditor.
This is this is $847 million of federal spending, and each one is different.
Right on. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, see you, Public Auditor. We'll take a quick break, and we're coming back with more of the link next. It's proudly brought to you by Pacific Points, IT&E, Cabo Enterprises, and Jack in the Box.
Tacos. Our World War II survivors have endured more sacrifice